So, I'll come back to you in a moment, Martin. Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is Andrew Jenkins from Leaders Live Breakfast Show this morning. This morning in my part of the world in the UK. I'm just getting the live feed up. That's brilliant. So, we're just counting down, as you can see, and for those of you that just turn the volume down on my phone, there we go. I've come on this before, you might recognise the music. This is my Uncle Peter playing a minor blues. It's phenomenal, this piece of music. It really gets me going, this. It's really nice. So I hope you enjoy it too. Looks like my live feed's frozen. Let's just check what's going on there then. There we go. Lovely. Okie dokie. That's better. So 10 seconds now then. There we are. So good morning everybody. It's a Wednesday morning here in the UK. As I said, wherever you are in the world, you're welcome. Some of you, it's the end of the day. It's 8:45 here and we are live. I love that bit. And we're streaming out on, as I was saying to Martin earlier, who's joining me, we're streaming out on LinkedIn, we're streaming out on YouTube, on 2 Facebook groups, and I think Twitter, if that's kind of glued its way up and done all of its funky stuff. So don't know how that happens, but it all kind of works. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome wherever you are in the world to this Leaders Live Breakfast Show. So I'm joined today by my friend Martin Rich. And I'll just quickly introduce Martin. Martin is the co-founder and executive director of a company called Future Fit Foundation. In the past, he's been a director of HSBC and UBS Investment Bank. He's been VP of JP Morgan, as well as a sales director for social finance. He's been around doing some top jobs. Also, like me, he's a recovering engineer, having read at Queen's College at Cambridge for his engineering degree. I read mine elsewhere, but a little bit about Martin. Martin, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing well, thanks, Andrew. Good to be here. Good to be with you this morning.
Likewise. And do you know what? I'm loving, and I'm sure everybody else is loving, that 80s cheese plant in the background behind you.
Yeah.
Love a good cheese plant.
I got it as a teenager, and I've been carrying it around.
They are bulletproof, aren't they? Nothing
really
kills
are.
a cheese plant. You don't even have to water it. It's just fantastic. They just keep on giving, don't they? So glad to have you on the show. I'm going to come back to you in just a tick, Martin.
No worries.
Just a quick teaser for you guys out there. There's quite a few joining, so that's great. And oh yes, okay. So Emma says good morning. So great to see you, Emma. Keep the comments coming. So teaser, recently on the Leaders Live Breakfast Show, we've been covering a lot about well-being, and sustainability is another important and rich topic on the current business agenda in today's rapidly changing world. So that's where we're heading today, on sustainability. So for example, on Monday, the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced that the UK would be energy green by 2035. And along with the rapid rise of electric cars, rising gas, fuel prices, electricity prices, is sustainability a trend that, we'll need to keep on the top agenda item of driving future business? So that's a question we're going to explore today. And, what are the top trends in reaching sustainability agenda? And, what do we need to pay attention to, folks, as sort of future fit business leaders ourselves? And with this in mind, what does it mean for your business to become future fit? And are sustainability and being green, are they just slogans, folks? Is this just a tick box exercise and sort of full of marketing gimmicks? I think not. And I'm sure Martin will defend that corner very well, but that's where we'll be kind of heading today. And what do we need to think about changing in our own businesses today, in how do we do what we do? And finally, is sustainability actually a really critical success factor in making your business future fit and resilient? So that's where we're heading today. So Martin, back to you again. We're going to talk about all things sustainability and future fit businesses today. Yeah, let me just give you a round of applause, mate. The wonders
always good to get that before you've said anything.
Before you've even said a word. Well, there you go. So So, tell us, Martin. As I said, Monday, Boris Johnson made that announcement on
Yeah.
green energy by 2035. What do you think are the kind of top? What is the sustainability? Is it a trend? That we'll need to keep on top of the business agenda. And what is it that's driving our future businesses on the sustainability front, Martin? Over to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, it
Yeah.
is. There's no question. It's what's widely known as one of the mega trends, which is a grand word, but as listeners will appreciate, it is one of those things that is not going away.
No.
And I think it's not a trend because Boris has said that the country is going to be renewable by 2035. That's his response, a part of his response, part of the government's response to the fact that this trend, for want of a much better word, is real.
Yeah.
But what does that really mean? The bottom line is that the issues of climate change in particular, but many other things, social inequality and injustice, these are now factors, and we can dig into this a bit more, but these are things, they're not just a flash in the pan. They're not something that's going to be here and gone in a couple of years' time, and we'll have moved on to other things of importance. These are issues that are going to affect us for the entirety of our lives.
Indeed.
They are going to affect generations to come. So it's not a flash in the pan. These are very serious things that are literally going to change the way we do business. They're going to change the way we live. To some extent, they're going to change what it means to be living. What does civilization look like? I mean, these are core fun. Yeah, it really is. It's huge stuff. If we look at the impacts that climate change is going to have over the next 20, 30 years out to 2100 and beyond, if we get that far, it's going to affect crops. It's going to affect water availability. It's going to affect livability of different areas.
Of course.
Rising sea levels is one that people have heard of. All of these things are going to dramatically change how 9.5 billion people live and operate and interconnect. So the planet is creaking at the edges anyway. That many people brings all sorts of issues of, again, justice and inequality. These factors are not going to just magically vanish. So we have to adapt. We have to think about the impacts that it is having on us and we are having on it. So we need to be looking both, outside in and inside out. So as business leaders, this is going to affect massively the way we run business. So it's a very long answer to really a very simple question. Is this a trend? No, it's a fact. It's here. This is something we have to understand, and we'll dig into this a bit more now, but this is something we have to understand and then figure out what our role is in hopefully reducing the issues and being part of the solution rather than part of the problem, which is what most of us are today.
Interesting about that, what is our role in this, and and who's driving it? Where are you seeing the driving forces? Is it from government? Is it from business, or is it from consumers? Where are you seeing the big points here?
That's a good question. It's a bit of all of those. I think government generally around the world at the moment feels very reactionary. I don't see a lot of government leadership in for all the posturing that we'll see, particularly around COP26 coming up. I think the change on the ground is widely being driven actually by business, which is responding both to consumer demand and requirement and just pure fact of what is happening. So if as a responsible business leader, you are constantly looking at the risks to your business as well as the opportunities, obviously, but you're constantly scanning the horizon for those challenges and risks. Well, as we've already touched on, the environmental and social issues that we're facing today are huge potential risks to your business. So you have to be starting to address those, even if morally and ethically you don't give a damn about planet or people, but you just care about the profitability of your business. Well, you still need to be worrying about sustainability issues.
Yeah, because it's driven by the consumer, right?
Right, your reputation, your right to operate, the risks of carbon tax, supply chain disruptions. Just look at everything that's happened over the last 18 months with COVID. If you are not at least aware of and responding to those issues, you are not being a responsible leader.
Yeah.
Again, irrespective of the moral aspects. So, firstly, in response to that, you're seeing a huge amount being driven by companies, supported or encouraged, or sometimes bullied along by the NGO sector. Part of where I'm working right now, and that's sort of trying to help and encourage business and the finance industry to be moving in the right direction. I think we see very strongly there's a big wave of consumers who are very interested in this type of thing. Be that ethical products, sustainable products, thinking about what they're buying, waste, all of these things, right? So that's a huge driver. Business naturally, flows to fill that demand. And I think, governments are waking up to the need to respond to all of these types of issues, no question. But again, I don't really describe that as leadership. I see that as filling in. There are examples where we're seeing regulation actually really beginning to step in and help. And of course, we need government to be part of this picture. So the various pledges that the UK government is making, those are good. Whether or not they follow through, time will tell. But ultimately, I think the cynic in me says I don't see a globally coordinated governmental response to an issue like climate change, which we really need, or we are in trouble. But when just even looking again at the pandemic, have we really seen a global coordinated movement, or have we seen a sort of more of a winner takes all mentality for vaccines and stuff? Well, sadly, it's far more the latter than the former.
Indeed, yeah, very true,
and that's for something that's very real and very now, and really, we've all felt the impact of it. Climate change, although we are feeling the impact of it on a daily basis, just still doesn't quite feel that close a lot of the time. You know what I mean?
I do.
It sort of does, but it sort of doesn't. And so you haven't got that urgency and immediacy that we've had with the pandemic. But if we can't get a global coordinated response for the pandemic, it sort of doesn't fill you with great sort of expectation that the governments are going to come together when you've got the different political viewpoints of Biden, Xi Jinping, and Vladimir Putin. I mean, it's hard to imagine the three of them really finding great agreement. So,
and even before that, with the Trumpism, and the denial of that.
Exactly.
So we won't get into that one. But this is what Steve Smith says. Keep your comments coming, by the way, folks. So let me just pop this one up here. So Martin Greg Jackson of Octopus has described the UK energy market as truly broken. And I think bollocks is a technical expression here, Steve. So hope that he didn't learn that from his sales team. What are your thoughts? And please keep the questions coming, folks. I mean, this is an important topic, so please keep the questions coming. So what do you think to that? What do you think to Steve's question,
there's obviously there's numerous different pieces to that, and I should say I'm not an expert on the energy market per se, but
sure.
I mean, just ignoring the sort of the whole regulatory piece. I mean, there was the whole sort of unwinding and separation of the distribution and generation pieces a good few years ago, right?
Indeed.
That in itself is we could have an hour's talk just on that. But I think what we're seeing is a really interesting transitional microcosm, and the energy sector is, of course, at the forefront of the transition to a low and then zero carbon environment. So, we're at this strange place where we're trying to phase out the fossil fuels as quickly as possible. Coal first, then oil, then gas. We're trying to grow the renewables as quickly as we can. And, again, in fairness to the UK, the overarching piece that, we're doing a reasonably good job in starting to make that transition. But at the same time, we've still not really solved the underlying issues of, sort of grid loading and capacity and storage, which is the big issue when you're predominantly relying on solar and wind. In the UK, which isn't renowned for being the best place in the world. Is the market broken? Yes, and the fact that we've just, I don't know, what's it now, 6 or 8 suppliers have gone down in the last couple of weeks because of the spike. But again, that to me speaks to the sustainability issue, and sustainability, if done right, should ultimately lead to resilience. And what we're seeing is we have an energy system that is not resilient at the moment for all sorts of different reasons. So I think Steve's point is absolutely right. It's broken because it's not resilient. So the question actually becomes, how do we make it resilient? Let me give you a sort of a sidebar equivalent issue here. I'm going to be very smug and green for a second. But 18 months ago, we replaced our gas boilers with ground source heat pumps.
Okay.
Now, we're not on mains gas, we were on LPG, which was ridiculously expensive anyway, because it's basically a cartel of two who supply it and charge what they like. So for cost and for the environmental reasons, we decided to go down the ground source heat pump route. Now, again, we're fortunate in that we got a bit of space. We were able to do that. Not everybody can, and we were able to obviously afford it up front. We get the renewable heat incentives, which is great. That was all exactly. So that was good. But since then, gas prices have quadrupled, and I don't care because I'm immune from that. I'm sorted from that, which is part of what it means to be resilient. And then on top of that, you've got all the problems that we've had with petrol availability in the last sort of week and a half. I also have a plug-in hybrid car that I use to get to and from the station. And so, I haven't been able to get anywhere because, of course, I've been stuck in the queues of everybody queuing to get to the petrol. But again, being able to navigate that issue. So I'm really not saying all of that to be green and smug and just irritate everybody who's watching. But the point I'm trying to make is one of that preparedness and resilience that we need to be thinking about. Ultimately, I'm not worried about the supply of fuel because the plug-in enables me to do the journeys I need to do. Now, ultimately, back again to Steve's point, I am, of course, concerned about the energy system, because if I can't plug my car in or I can't run my ground source heat pumps, then I'm stuffed.
At 5 o'clock at night. In the middle of winter.
Because the turbines haven't been going and we haven't had any. But I think that the overarching point we're getting at here is the resilience of the system. Right, is the essential piece. And what we are seeing, and why sustainability is an issue, is we're learning the hard way that the entire global socioeconomic system that we've built
is fragile,
is incredibly fragile. Incredibly so. There is so little resilience in the system. So when, to me, we start talking about build back better and all of this stuff, what that actually means is let's build back in a way that is resilient. And for us at Future Fit, what we mean by resilient is within the planetary boundaries, above the societal foundations, so that instead of breaking the system, which is what we're currently doing every single day, we're actually rebuilding the reserves of the system. We talk about extra financial, social and environmental break even. And by that, when we talk about financial break even. We all know what we mean, right? To be successful, you need to be making a financial profit more than you're making a loss. And if you make a loss, you eat into your reserves, and you need to rebuild those reserves and make a profit, or you go bankrupt.
Indeed.
The problem we've got as a global society is we've been trading environmental and social loss for so long. We've used up the reserves. Yeah. We're breaking the planetary
so we're in boundaries. The red, right?
We've been in the red so long.
Yeah.
The bank account is going bust. And that's why the planet is fighting back. It's why on the societal front we've got all of the issues we've got there. We've got to turn that around. We've got to start rebuilding those reserves, being regenerative when it comes to the environment, being equal and just when we're talking about society, and rebuild those reserves so we start to move back into profit. That then gives us the resilience because we've rebuilt the reserves. We have no reserves, so we have no resilience.
And wouldn't it be nice if that happens? So I'm just thinking about infrastructure projects in the States because they never happen, right? Every government says they're going to do it and it's cost too much money. So there's the rub. Yeah,
and there's a great example, right? I mean, you go to the US, and obviously we haven't been there for 18 months or so, but when we used to, in those
days,
happy days,
planes,
heady days, you remember planes? I've heard of those. But you go, and every time I go to the US, you just look at that infrastructure, and it just feels like it's creaking every time you go because back in the 50s or whenever it was, the 50s 60s when it was all built, I'm sure it was shiny and new and lovely, and basically it's just been patched up ever since. It's a great analogy about what we're talking about, right? It was all good and shiny, and then just chips away, and then suddenly one day you wake up and then everybody says, well, look at the cost of repairing all of this. Well,
and yet when Germany builds a rail line, they build it for 150, 200 years. They don't build it for 25 years that we do in this country, say, for example. So there's some analogies there. I get that. And yet, you know what? There are companies that are doing, talk about business taking initiatives. So obviously one of the big ones would be Apple, big business, big tech business doing its thing and really advertising that. And, and actually sort of putting their hands up and saying, look, we're nowhere near done yet, but we are leading the way in the way we're trying to make everything carbon neutral, the way we're operating, and recyclable, this, that, and the other. Is it a gimmick? Well, yes and no. I mean, but at the same time, they're leading the way. Levi's, which is a shirt I'm wearing right now, they're building hemp into this shirt, which uses less water, so it's much more sustainable, and they're making a thing of that. And actually, in fact, why wouldn't I buy that? It's actually very comfortable. It's lovely to wear. And, for me as the consumer...
And you can smoke it if you're having a bad day.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. So there's all of these things, and I thought waterless jeans, but actually they're brilliant products, so some people are breaking the mold to kind of get products out there that, the consumer is driving, right?
And, I think the critical thing here really is authenticity.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies are trying to do a lot of good things. And that's all great. Yeah. The challenge, of course, is that there are no easy solutions to any of this. You buy an electric car and say, oh, great, I'm not emitting greenhouse gases. And we go, oh, yes, we've got lithium batteries. Yeah. Right. And that's that's genuinely an issue. Yeah. You look at things like sometimes some of the organic cottons versus mass produced cottons, and it's like, oh well, we're using less water. It's like, well, yes, you are, except for the fact that because the organic cotton has a lower yield, you end up moving to a space to produce the same amount, which net ends up taking more water. So there's, and there are all these spins that people put on. I mean, and again, Apple, absolutely, they're doing some great stuff. I'm a complete Apple fanboy. I'm speaking to you on one now, and I love it. Yeah. But it's like, why is all of the stuff glued together on the inside? I had to get the keyboard fixed on this a while ago, and they ended up having to throw away 3/4 of the top of the computer because it's not modular. You can't repair it. Yeah. We're engineers, Andrew, by training, exactly. Right? We like taking things apart and rebuilding them. I remember my first MacBook. I've been inside there with a screwdriver so many times replacing bits.
Wow.
Because I could,
Yeah.
and YouTube's a wonderful source, right?
Isn't it?
Go on there.
Basically become an expert in a day, right? Yeah.
Silly, follow the instructions online. I can't do that with this thing because it's all sealed and
Sealed up.
so on the one hand they're doing some stuff, but then you go, but and I get we all know why they do it this way.
Yeah.
Right?
Nudge, wink, wink. Say no more.
Nudge, wink, wink. Right.
Yeah.
And again, you look at some of the historical controversies they've had around Foxconn and the treatment of staff in their supply chains.
Yeah, still today, actually. Yeah.
Well, and again, they yes, I think it would be hard to say that the issue is definitely gone. Let's put it that way.
No,
I don't know the details and don't want to get sued, but but I think what we're moving to, Andrew, and why this is, I think, a fascinating time for all of this is, I think the greenwashing is beginning to be dead. People are recognizing it. People are not content now with a slogan that's just like, buy my organic this, buy my green that. They're like, hang on.
Yeah.
I want to look into and really understand the values and purpose of the company, and that is actually expressed through the way that they are dealing with, to use the big term, sustainability issues. And
power of the consumer, right?
Right, and the brave companies are actually the ones who stand up and say, we are not perfect.
Yeah, but we're getting there. Come with us.
But we're working on it. Exactly, come with us. And really interestingly, what we found as part of the Future Fit journey is because we hold a mirror up to everything that a company is doing that is bad and good.
Yeah.
A lot of people have been reluctant in the early days to talk about how they're using Future Fit externally because they didn't want to show the bad. They were using it internally because they were like, this is fantastic. This is showing us the things we need to look at, but there's no way I'm talking about that externally. I think that is now shifting, and we're seeing the leaders say, we've got to be authentic.
Yeah.
And authentic
like
means
that.
standing up and showing where are we working well and what have we still got to address. Let's put it out there. And you're always going to lose, some consumers, and you are putting targets on your back for people to lob things at. But I think better that going forward than just standing up and saying, oh, we're doing this thing, our jeans are really green.
Yeah.
And hiding everything else.
The spin, right? The gimmick, the spin.
Right.
Yeah.
Which at some point is going to get unearthed.
Indeed.
By
some clever journalist, right?
Some journalist, or quite frankly, these days, some teenager who has gone and done a bit of research.
Yeah.
And really looked into this stuff.
Brilliant.
Puts it out on social media, and suddenly all that multi-million-dollar marketing budget has just been wrecked by
a teenager.
Brilliant.
And actually, that's accountability, right? Isn't that interesting? So actually, there's a tip then, because I was going to ask you. We've talked about some of the trends that are going on, and we highlighted some of those. Water and electricity and all of those things. And yet, when it comes down to what are the practical things that businesses need to do today, and one of those is the whole authenticity piece and actually being real about where you're heading and what's missing, and that's okay, but providing you're authentic about it. And look, we've got some conundrums here. We're not quite sure what to do about these items, but we're working on it.
Correct.
And okay, so that authenticity rather than the spin is the difference that makes the difference.
I think
so. Okay. So, what are the other sort of, I'm just thinking with time's marching on, and what do we need to pay attention to then? I've got the authenticity piece. What else do we need to pay attention to? What are the critical success factors for us to then think about our future fit businesses to be more resilient, Martin?
So I think, we describe 3 additional factors these days that are affecting any business on top of the traditional Porter's 5 forces, right? That everybody who's done an MBA or something, competitors and suppliers and all of that, which is all good. But there's environmental, societal, and technological is the third one that we would throw in there every time. Right. These are the three big macro factors that you have to be thinking about. So on the societal front, it's your staff, it's your talents, right? So it's the how are you treating them? How much do they feel part of the values and what the company is trying to achieve? You know, why does society want you to succeed? Why do your staff want to succeed and come in to work for you? Is it simply so they can get a paycheck and go home?
Or is it about values and beliefs and purpose, right?
Right. And not only that, but then, you know, are you equipping them to be the best them that they can possibly be to the extent that business is responsible for doing that, right? I mean, there is a point, but not sending your staff home so exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually that they can't, even do anything when they get home. To take an extreme example,
of course.
So your staff, then obviously your customers, and again, it's not only about the product, though clearly that's very important, but again, the values and the authenticity that you espouse as an organization. And then there's the communities within which you operate, your supply chains and your suppliers, to the extent that you know them. How well do you know them? What could you do to increase your knowledge of them? I mean, great little sidebar example here, just because there's an enormous sign just up in Spitalfield Market. Tony Chocolonely's chocolate, right, which is a well-known, example now of an amazing brand.
Wow.
Where, basically somebody said, I don't like the fact that there are child slaves in the chocolate supply chains. So I'm going to produce a product which is really good. And I happen to think the chocolate is really good. And we are going to do our absolute damnedest to make sure there is zero slavery or unethical behavior in our supply chain as we possibly can. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So, that's a great example of tackling those issues. So,
and a spot-on message as well for the consumer, right? Which cares, right?
And authentic. This is the key thing.
Right.
So, thinking about in your business on the societal front, where is it that you are touching and impacting people, and how are you addressing all of those issues? The environmental side is perhaps in some ways a little bit more kind of obvious to be thinking about. Your energy usage, how can you make that 100% renewable? How do you eliminate greenhouse gas emissions, other emissions, waste, all the way through, again, your supply chains, your operations, your products? How do you make that circular? The modularity of your products, returnability or recyclability of your products. And again, just sort of saying to people, at the end of your life, you could turn this into a flower pot. Which kind of seems to be where quite a few people have gone. It's like, our products are circular. You can turn it into a flower pot. I mean, how many cheese plants do you need in your life? Authentic, again, genuine recyclability of product.
And that's about your partnerships as well, then, isn't it? And all that.
Right,
and the social stuff again.
The infrastructure of the areas and countries that you're selling into, or whatever it might be.
And your energy providers.
Right. Back to the point on energy, but again, use good energy providers who are actually helping to build resilience into the system. We're huge fans of Ecotricity. Again, I have no links, by the way, with any of the companies I'm throwing out here, so there's no kickbacks going on here. But I think they're one I'm particularly a personal fan of. And then just on the third leg, the technological leg, technology is changing everything at an increasing pace, right? Once upon a time, if you were a massive bank of the ilk I used to work with, you were safe, right? I mean, the chances of you couldn't build up another bank of that size. Now, again, 3 kids with a laptop out of university can come in and take 5% of your annual profits away. Because of the ability to just connect together, through electronic wallets, foreign exchange trading, provision, whatever, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
We're seeing this time and time and time again.
Blockchain.
Radical shifts
Yeah.
and stuff coming across into your industry from other industries and utterly disrupting. A common example we use, we've done work with Novo Nordisk, one of the world's biggest insulin manufacturers. Produce about 50% of the world's insulin.
Wow.
Apple have a patent pending for a glucose monitor that would sit in the back of a watch.
Yeah, that's right.
And apparently will be along fairly soon. So that means...
Space.
Right, but that means that your wearable tech is going to tell you to go for a walk or have a snack.
Amazing, isn't it? Scary.
Which means, but that
Yeah.
means that if you are an insulin manufacturer, that's a huge problem. Now, Novo's actually a very ethical company, and they would be perfectly happy if diabetes ceased to exist.
Absolutely.
Because they'd go on and so there's an example of authenticity.
Yeah.
They'd go on and tackle other problems. But as an example of disruption, everybody laughed at Tesla. Now every car company wants to be Tesla.
Yeah.
So are you aware of the tech that is coming? And when you look at, you and I will both remember, sadly, very easily, Steve Jobs waving the iPhone at us all about 12 years ago.
Indeed.
And we all thought, that looks quite cool.
Wasn't it?
12 years later, it has radically changed the way you live your life.
Totally.
Every single aspect of, how you connect with your friends, how you read a map. What map maker saw that and thought, oh, well, that's the end of my career. But when's the last time you bought a physical map?
Yeah, very true.
It had a massive influence on the Tesla and the creation of self-driving cars, autonomous vehicles. It's all linked in with that tech development. So now, imagine the fact that we're about to get 1,000 iPhone type things coming at us over the next 5 to 10 years with, quantum computing, precision fermentation, just so many different things that are going to change the way we eat, interact, manufacture, commute, travel. And all of the, it's 1,000 butterflies flapping their wings.
Yeah, indeed, making huge change around the globe, right?
Right, all of which is going to interact and, again, just change the landscape at the same time as we've got, 9 billion people trying to eke out existence on a planet where we're breaching most of the planetary conditions. Back to your first question, is this a trend? That's not what I call a trend.
No.
Right?
You've got to be living under a rock if you can't realise this, right?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So with all of that going on, how is your business setting itself up to be as resilient as it can and to be, again, part of the solution rather than part of the problem? Those are the big trends. Those are the things that you need to be looking out for, Andrew, in terms of your business. And just to plug, if I may, that's what Future Fit is all about. And encourage any listeners, go to our website, futurefitbusiness.org. That is a free set of resources that will show you what are the issues you need to be thinking about and start to put you on the route to be addressing those. We have the break-even goals, all the things you need to stop doing to become what we call future fit, to be living within the planetary boundaries, societal foundations, and our positive pursuits. What are the things that you could be doing to further our progress towards a flourishing future, towards the Sustainable Development Goals? And that's the resource that we're trying to put into the
Brilliant.
market, but it's coming at it from this, from this perspective. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll put the website link in the description a little bit later on today, folks. So it's there. So please check that out. Martin, we could go on for ages about and we've only just scratched.
We usually do.
Massive. Yeah. This is a huge topic.
Yeah.
And we've only really scratched the surface today. So please check out Martin's website. With lots of useful resources. Remember those three elements of change around, the society impact, the environmental impact, and the tech, and getting to grips with what that means for sustainability in those three bubbles and that Venn diagram and how they all crisscross one another. Really important stuff there. Martin's also offering free membership to his Change Maker community for a year for the first person or the respondee in the comments to pop a comment in saying yes please in the comments field after this breakfast show. So if you want to do that, if you're listening, please do that. Look, while I'm finishing up here, if there's any questions from you guys, please interact with us on the comments. We'll pick those up in the next couple of minutes. So from my side, thanks for that, Martin.
You're welcome.
We'll just be a slight delay while hopefully some questions come along. So from my side, I'm the founder of a CEO community called Inspired CEOs. Martin's actually been a game changer guest for us. And look, if you're a business owner with staff, then we'd love to invite you to a free few weeks to join our community, to experience our game changing conversations, our amazing hot seats, and simply to feel part of our CEO community. It makes a huge difference. I know, Martin, you've been in our group for a little while. What say you about the Inspired CEOs?
I love the ability to just share those inspiring stories and just to hear the challenge challenges that others have faced. I think anybody leading a business knows that it can be quite a lonely journey in some ways. It really is, and I think just to have that opportunity to hear people saying, this is why I'm doing it, these are the things I've learned or found, these are the cool things that I've experienced and enjoyed, get out there and do it, is something. It's that sort of perk up we all need from time to time.
Yeah, thank you. And Steve's actually claimed your top prize here. So
welcome, Steve. You're very welcome.
It's gone, people. It's Steve Smith. So Steve Smith's actually coming on the show. We're going to be talking about some really interesting stuff that Steve's doing, and he's an author as well, and a leadership expert. So we're looking at leadership with him. We are terrible predictors of the future. How much of a guess do we need? Let's just have a look. So this is Yuri. We're terrible predictors of the future. How much of a guess do we need? Very good question.
That's a great question. So briefly, the planetary and system science that we have used to help identify what does it mean to live on the right side of this extra financial break-even line that I described is relatively well known and relatively accurate. So in terms of giving us a North Star to aim for, I'm very confident that actually it's a very good place to be going. The environmental science is pretty good and pretty understood. The social science is weaker. That's absolutely true. And there isn't a simple measure of what is a happy, flourishing human being. Humans are awkward and difficult and emotional and all the rest of it. And it's very hard to, we can't Andrew, you are a 7 out of 10. What does that doesn't mean anything. But we can still understand, and as businesses and business leaders, we can still create the situation in terms of what does it mean to enable for people to flourish. So in that sense, I'm confident that the line in the sand that we are drawing for businesses to head towards is pretty accurate, or accurate enough that right now, if we head towards it, we'll be in a much better position.
Brilliant.
Now, in terms of, will we get there, and absolutely, predictability of the future, I don't even try and make those predictions.
But we got to get there, right?
Right. I completely agree that we're terrible predictors of it. But actually, if you approach the problem from the angle that we have, that in itself isn't a big issue. And what level of risk am I comfortable with for my own business?
Brilliant question.
Look,
Well done, Yuri.
my co-founder and I, gave up well-paying jobs to start a massively poorly underfunded NGO with a vision of literally changing our entire socioeconomic system. So I think two guys in a coffee shop with nothing other than a grand idea to change the world. I think that probably answers the level of risk that
I think that's absolutely right, as well as supporting families and all the rest of it in that. Well, so well done. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Yori, for those questions, and keep the questions coming. Quick word on Leaders Live, just while we're kind of just polishing up here. So, and then what we're doing next week. So I set up Leaders Live with the purpose to, this is about edutaining and exploring high performance teamwork topics, of which this is really part of. We just touched on some of that as well. And I think for the sustainability agenda, we need to be more high performing than ever. And in terms of what that means for human beings, it is about the people factor that will make these changes, and technology and environment. It's people that drive the whole thing. That's why this show's been set up, really. So it's informal, fun, back and forth conversations with like-minded, passionate people just like Martin and Steve Smith, who's coming on the show later. Shout out for you, Steve. And I did this because I think it's important for this generation of business leaders to get success through the people factor, through sustainability, through well-being, and all the topics that we are tackling. They're all interrelated, right? And so therefore Leaders Live really taps into that innate superpower of I to the power of we. And you can't do any of this sustainability agenda or the wellbeing agenda or any of the business agendas at the moment without this people factor I to the power of we. That's where we're heading, folks. So next week's Leaders Live, that'll be on Tuesday, the 12th. We flip-flop between Tuesdays and Wednesdays, depending on what I'm doing. And it's going to be at the same time, 8:45. And I'll have CEO of See Me with Sonia Holmes, and we'll be talking about, knowing how people tick and using behavioural tools and psychometric tools for high performance. So that's really quite interesting. So I'm looking forward to that. And I just hope that you find this topic useful, and next week's topic as well. I hope you find that interesting and useful too. So be there or be square. And Syed says, just morning, Syed. Great to see you on the show as well, Syed. Cost of lower returns on shareholder funds seems to be taking pole position on the decisions with regards to ESG. And the sooner this conversation changes, the better for the planet. What say you, Martin?
I think Syed's completely correct on that. At the moment, it's shareholder primacy, versus sort of societal primacy, and that's exactly the heart of the problem we are trying to tackle here. It's always going to be cheaper to externalize the costs of environmental degradation and social injustice. Of course, it's going to be cheaper. And the whole shareholder maximization model encourages you to externalize costs and internalize gains. That's what the model is. So guess what? We've done it incredibly well, and now we're reaping the results, the
consequences.
Of that. Absolutely. So correct, that is part of the problem. And what we need to do as consumers, as business leaders, as owners, and as consumers or clients of these businesses is change the flow of funds.
Absolutely.
We ultimately, we are the pensioners, we are the investors and the savers. So we need to invest our money in ways that says no. Actually, we want a broader return, not just a financial return. We need to think about what we buy, how we buy, when we buy. We need to think about where we work, who we work for, what the results of that are. And if we all do that, we will change the system. If we just throw our hands up in the air and say, no, we're victims of the system, we're slaves of the system, then we are, and nothing will change.
And that's the difference between fate and destiny, right? We can create the destiny we need.
100%.
And, greed isn't good 100%. In this instance.
Greed is definitely...
as Gecko once said.
Indeed.
Brilliant. And where are we? So Yuri just finally says, with all the knowledge we have, if you're not design, where are we? with all the knowledge we have, if you're not designed through a sustainable lens, I don't know what he means by that, but yeah, I think he's right. Yeah,
I think he's 100% right.
I think he is.
That at 9:35 in the morning.
Yeah, and I think that a-hole thing, actually, it might even reject us if we're not careful. So
maybe he's in your inner hole. Maybe that's what he means.
That's what he meant, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, this is
if you're not designing through a sustainability lens, you're in a hole.
You're in a hole.
Right.
Yeah, well done. Brilliant. Okay, folks, thank you very much for interacting with us today. Thanks, Yuri. Thanks, Syed. Thanks, Steve Smith. Brilliant to see you all. And Emma as well. So thanks for being on the show. Thanks for your interactions. Next week, we've got Sonia, as I said. Thanks again, Martin. And cheers for now. Have a great day or evening or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Cheers for now, folks. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.